my name's Erika. I'm an illustrator. Welcome to the video. So honestly, I'm kind of late for uploading this. I'm trying to upload once every week. Not really forcing myself to keep it to any day, but it's technically the next week by this point because it's already Sunday. But whatever. So, I just wanted to share this drawing I did the other day. I call it a drawing, it's more like a digital painting, especially with how many layers I use, so many layers. But anyways, I wanted to draw something kind of like self-indulgent, so that meant drawing another mermaid with long flowing hair, so I was having a lot of fun with that, having fun with the pose, even though little bits of it aren't, accurate, but whatever, it's self-indulgent for a reason. And at some point I decided to give her a horn, and I was like, oh, like a narwhal, but honestly, if I wanted to be it to look more like a narwhal, I should have straight up made her nose the horn, but it's fine. Some parts of this design, I'm like, why did I cut it out? Because it had little cool, like, sleeve things that hung over on her sides that I just didn't include it in the final. Little regrets along the way. But I think one choice that I made that was good, which you'll see in a few seconds, is that I ended up cropping it because I feel like there's just so much empty space on the sides that it's not an interesting enough of a painting, so I ended up cropping it so it's more of a, it's not as wide, it's more tall sort of painting. Yeah. I'll hop in when there's more for me to say. Alright, so something that kind of interesting here, when I was looking at references of like the ocean floor, more of the shallow part where you could still stand, but that sort of area of water, because I don't have that visual library automatically in my head of what the underwater scenes look like. I noticed that, as you look farther into the distance, there's like this really prominent blue hue that, covers everything, and I wanted to bring that in because it helps, with that understanding of space, and also reflects more of what the ocean floor actually looks like. But, that's kind of an interesting phenomenon because that's exactly what happens when we're on land too. I'll try to find a reference photo to show you what I'm talking about, but, if you have a general understanding of color, that's what, a lot of times artists are talking about when they refer to, perspective of using color, where warmer colors tend to come forward, they tend to be the first thing we see, while cooler colors tend to recede in space. They tend to go farther back, and that happens in the actual world. Looking outside my window now, the world kind of looks strange because it's September 13th in 2020, so we recently had that weird experience where the sky looked red, orange, yellow, but usually like especially if you live in a city and you could see, you're crossing a the bridge, like to San Francisco, that's pulling from my own personal experience, you could see farther into the distance, things tend to fade out. And oftentimes it is because they are, the objects look more cool, they look more blues, there's more blues, and that sort of color family. While when objects are closer to you, they tend to be more warm. So, just looking outside my window, the farthest tree that I could still see the outline of, it looks more blue-green, while the trees that are a little bit closer to me look more like a true green, like maybe even a yellow-green. So, that's something to keep in mind when you're creating art. If you do the opposite, let's say you make the object that's closest to you cool, and then the objects farther back, more warmer, like red, that can purposely kind of throw you off. And, I think I want to commit a whole video eventually to just rambling about art style, because I feel like there's so much to say. But I think something that most every artist agrees is that you have to know the rules to break them. Not saying you can't take risks just because you don't understand all the fundamentals of art like the back of your hand, especially if you're just beginning. But I think there's definitely, some obvious truth to it that, you have to know what you're doing. I remember when I was younger, and I say younger, like 14, I think, maybe, and I drew this one realistic eye based off a tutorial. Oh my gosh, I'm getting flashbacks of this Instagram artist who I loved. Oh my gosh, I have to find them. But it was one of those typical eye drawing tutorials, and I followed it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I made this eye, it looks perfect, how did I do it? And then I remember trying to copy it over and over, and I couldn't get it perfect like that again. And it's not that, the tutorial was wrong or whatever, but it's one of those things that I just genuinely didn't understand what made the eye look good. So it made it hard to replicate it. So that sometimes happens with some of my art pieces where like everything looks great and it works out, but I don't understand how I did it. So when I try to do it again, it's hard, right? And that's not any way to survive as an artist. It's, if it's a hobby, you'll live, right? Perfect practice makes perfect results. I forgot the phrase. Anyways, but if you're working towards, committing a hustle as an artist, you really have to understand what makes your art work. Especially if, when it comes to writing artist statements, which is another video I think I want to make, you gotta argue for yourself. You gotta argue why your art is good. Which oftentimes you might not feel that way, which is very true for me. I'll feel so on top of the world, and then, the next day I'm just like, what is this? This is horrible. But, the silver lining and all that kind of stuff is every artist feels like that at some point. So you'll fine. Wherever you are, you're fine. Just keep on doing art. That's all I gotta say. I don't know where... This is a good example of what happens when I have no idea what I'm gonna say in the video, and then I just keep on rambling, and then we end up on random places, and now I'm just sounding sentimental. Well, I just got a grade back for one of my drawing assignments. I hope it's a good grade. But anyways, obviously I have done a lot on the drawing since I've been rambling, but yeah, I'm playing with a water effect brush. I distort it so it looks like it's actually part of the, top of the water. It's reflecting down, using the transform tool a lot, and adding little hairs and highlights to make it look more realistic. And that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week. Bye!